I looked at it, and what I did was I said, great, let's use some first principles thinking. Instead, why don't we just put together a one-page sheet on the principles that we need to understand? What are the 5 most likely things to be non-compliant in our business? And then we can take that and filter everything through it, rather than ask them to when they have 0 context on our business. And so the irony of it was that they had picked this huge, crazy, expensive solution. It didn't even solve the problem. But they just thought, oh, we're making so much money, let's just pay these lawyers to do it. When in one afternoon, me looking through all the material that the lawyers gave us, put together a sheet. And guess what? I use that sheet to this day. I give it to my portfolio companies. Because again, a lot of them almost make the same mistake. You start making money and you think, oh, the best solutions are the expensive ones. But it's not the truth. In fact, what the richest people do is they never try to pay top dollar to solve something. They still know frugality always drives innovation, and that, guess what? The best solutions are the simplest. Simple scales, fancy fails, including with money solutions. And so just because it's the top dollar solution does not mean it's the best one. In fact, the biggest wallet doesn't always equate to the best solutions. Sometimes it just buys you the most expensive distraction. Frugality is not about having less. It's about learning to do more with less, aka leverage. And the richest people that I know and the wealthiest people in the world understand the concept of leverage. And just because they have buckets of money doesn't mean that they don't apply that. Start with that in mind. You have to realize that getting more money isn't going to drive better solutions a lot of the time. In fact, it starts with how you think when you have less. The next principle is to always have an oh shit fund. Something that I have learned and I've seen time and time again with people is that most of the time, people make better decisions when there's a safety net. Don't get me wrong, I know some people who are like, fuck it, if I don't feel like I'm gonna lose it all tomorrow, I have no motivation. I'm like, you do you, brother. But that is not me, and I think a lot of people are not that way. And so what I have seen is that for myself and for like most of the CEOs in my portfolio, them being able to know that they have their finances right and they have an oh shit fund helps them make better financial decisions. First thing that I did when I started making money was as soon as I paid off my debt, I said, you know what I would like? I would love to feel like I can take risks with my money to make more money, but I wanna feel like I have like a nest egg that if something were to happen, I have like a backup plan. And so the first thing that I did, I would say like the first 1 to 2 years of making real money was I put most of that money into what I call an oh shit fund. A fund that's like, all right, never touching this money again, but if everything goes to shit and all the decisions I make from here on out fucking suck, then I still will have enough money to start over. And what a lot of people do when they start making money, they continue to invest it in making more money. But I think that you have to know yourself and understand, am I gonna make better or worse decisions if I feel like my entire personal net worth and personal money is tied up in these decisions? And for me, knowing that decisions I were making in the business would also affect my personal status and income made me make worse decisions. I took less risks and I probably played it too safe until I had that oh shit fund established where I was like, all right, I know that if everything else goes to zero, I've got this. Another example of this is I had a founder and we wanted to open up a bunch of new locations for the business, but those new locations take personal investment. And he was incredibly stressed over this. And so I had a private conversation with him and I was like, dude, like, you know, we've got to open up more locations. So like, what's the issue? And he was like, honestly, Layla, like, I think it's the right decision for the business to open up these locations. Like, we have all the metrics, we have the money. He's like, but like, I have $40,000 in my personal account and we're about to put like millions into these locations. Something doesn't go right, it's on me. And I was like, dude, we need to get your personal shit right so that you feel like you can take more risks to make more money in your business. And I know that there's a lot of advice out there that says, just risk it all. Like, you want to feel like everything's on the line so that you do whatever it takes. That works for some people, probably less than it works for more. I think for a lot of people, knowing that you're taken care of personally, that your family's taken care of personally, actually allows you to make better money decisions and make more money ultimately. Because the reality is, making money involves taking risks. You don't just take one risk in starting your business and starting one product and then like ride that out for forever. You have to continuously take risks. And so if you're gonna do that, it's very comforting to know that you have in your back pocket like your personal self and family taken care of. And so one thing that I have realized and seen in a lot of my friends that are the wealthiest is that they have absolutely made sure that personally they're set so that they can take risks to make more money in their business. The next principle, if you ever encounter a decision around money that requires you to rush to make it, don't do it. I have literally never had this work out in my favor. And the wealthiest people I know that make the most money do not rush these decisions. So for example, a couple of years back, I was looking at buying a company. When we were looking at buying the company, another buyer came in, and then I was like, oh shit. It's very seldom actually that we're competing against buyers, because usually people are coming to us, aren't necessarily looking and shopping their business with the rest of the PE market. As soon as that happened, myself, my team were like, oh shit, like we have to act fast if we really want this company. I didn't feel necessarily great, because I was like, I don't really feel like I haven't done diligence on the company fully. I don't really have all full information, but like due to fear of missing out on it being a really great deal, I said, fuck it, and bought the company. And that purchase ended up being the worst purchase that I made in my whole career. Because then when I got the company and I started doing diligence, I was like, oh shit, this is not a company for me. It's not even that great of a company, and I don't think that I made a good decision at all. And it still to this day sucks to think about, because it was millions of dollars that I don't know if I'm ever gonna get back, because the company was not even in a spot where I think it should have been purchased by anybody. You see, what the richest people understand is that you cannot be pressured by outside forces and FOMO to make the best money decisions. Look at the best investors of all time, Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett. They'll take years to make a decision around an investment. If you want to make more money, you need to be able to resist urges to spend or to give the money. An example of this is like, I go shopping. I get texts from the people that are my personal shoppers at the stores. And they're always texting me with like, hey, we've got this one piece and I've sent it out to 5 people. And so if you want it, you need to buy it now. I did it about 2 times where I was like, oh shit, I really want it. Like, what if I don't know if I really want it, but like, I don't want somebody else to get it. And so I bought. And what's funny is those 2 things that I bought, because I felt like fear of missing out and I felt rushed, are probably the 2 things that I feel most resentful for buying. Because I don't even really like them that much. And that was what I realized. I just felt rushed, and I felt like, well, I don't want to miss out, so I got to do it quick. And what I've learned over time is that the wealthiest people don't do that. They don't make decisions out of fear. They make decisions out of their values, out of their principles, and they always make sure that they make logical decisions in a non-emotional state. And when you're rushing, what are you doing? You're often making an emotional decision, which often isn't the best one to make more money. There was a study done actually by the National Endowment for Financial Education that shows that 68% of people who make rushed decisions around finances regret those decisions. So that means that about 2/3 of people, more than 2/3 of people who make rushed decisions end up making the wrong decision. And so simply by giving yourself space and time and saying no to anything that is pressuring you to rush, you will make better financial decisions and make more money. And if you look at why people aren't able to keep making money, a lot of people make impulse decisions. You could look at the rush decisions. You can also look at impulse decisions. It's all the same thing. And the richest people that I know do not make impulse purchases. Something really interesting is that about 40% of all consumer spending is due to impulse purchases. And so mastering your emotions around money is crucial in understanding how to amass wealth. Something I used to do when I was poor is I used to buy things when I felt like it. Like I really wanted that dress. I wanted to buy this accessory for my car. I wanted to buy that new bathing suit. I didn't think about the fact that it was gonna be hard for me to pay the bills next week. And what's funny is like, now that I even have more money, I think more about how am I gonna feel about this purchase in the future? And is this the right thing for me to do? And is it because I have more money? No, it's because I changed my mindset so that I could have more money. Making logical decisions around how you spend your money is what the wealthiest people in the world do. One of my favorite principles is understanding that money is a game. I did not understand this when I did not have as much money. I thought that you had to be this like superiorly intelligent, crazy hardworking, amazing human of high character to make money and be worthy of having money. And it wasn't until I actually went to this mastermind in 2016 when I remember it clicked for me that none of that was true. So I had just quit my job, started our first business, and went to this mastermind and wasn't really making much money at the time. Was actually just in the like eating shit phase. And I remember this guy got on stage. I remember the first thing he said, he's like, oh, I've been stuck at like 400K a month for like 3 months. I can't seem to beat the 400K wall. Everything else he said, I just completely fucking forgot. All I heard was like, this guy that I am clearly smarter than, this guy that I am clearly a nicer person than, this guy that I clearly work harder than, he's making 40 times as much money as me. And I remember I literally walked out of the room and I called my dad and I was like, Dad, I'm gonna do this. I'm never looking back. I'm never gonna get a job again. I'm never gonna do anything again. This guy is a complete idiot and is making 40 times the amount of money as me. If he can do it, I can do it. And that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because what I realized is that making money is not something that requires superior intelligence or hard work. It's understanding money. Money itself is a game. And you have to understand the rules of the game and how to play it to make it. You can look at that as a good or bad thing because it doesn't mean that you have to be a good person to make money. There's lots of people who you could consider bad people that make money. But you could also look at it like, wow, money is available to anybody willing to learn the rules of the game. The second time I remember realizing that money is a game, there was this guy and I went to this meetup and it was only about 15 of us. And it was all businesses that were doing close to 100 million. And at that time, my business was worth probably like 150 million. His business was worth about 400 million. And I was like, I'm gonna figure out what the fuck it is that this guy's doing. Why is he making so much more money than me? And I was like, what is the unlock? Like, is he a better leader than me? Is he better at driving revenue than me? Like, what is it better? And I remember sitting with him and talking with him and I asked so many questions. And it literally, there was nothing that he did better than me. And I'm not trying to, I'm saying this anonymously, but like, I was smarter, I worked harder, I had a better team, I had more resources, I had a better sales process, marketing process, product. What was it? Well, there's one thing I didn't realize, which is that in the game of money, you have the most opportunity when you have the biggest market. So what did he have that I didn't have? I served gyms, he served anybody that had real estate. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, he has so much more room to make mistakes than me. That's when I realized, like, it's not about your character, how hard you work, or how smart you are. Sometimes it's just like you get lucky by picking the right market. It helps to learn the rules of the money game, but a lot of people also just get lucky. They just stumble into it without even knowing the rules. And so what I wish I had understood when I was making less money is like, I don't need to get smarter. I don't need to work even harder. I don't need to like gas everything I'm doing. I need to learn the game of money. I need to understand how value translates to money and what is valuable. And more work and more effort and more time does not always equate to more value. In fact, funny stat is that the National Bureau of Economic Research suggests that only 20% of somebody's income correlates to their IQ. So what does that mean for you if you're watching this? It means that you don't need to be smarter to make more money.